You didn't fill your head.
So this is
It's lonely out there.
Oh, there's only 14 signs. Huh?
Nobody's mad. I like everybody. Right?
For some reason, fall for don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Voting for everyone.
It's always possible.
I know.
moved over.
Well, they added like an extra row of chairs.
I don't know.
I always feel bad.
I don't really know.
Right here, because I'm like, you know, in black.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
You know,
Change.
you know what I'm saying? I just feel.
I know.
What do we got here? Is this from John?
Yeah. Nancy Rebar, she's been doing it for years for the parking lot. She does a great job.
It really
I
has.
know, and
You're
they
right.
move it.
Tell me she does a good job.
They move it actually.
That makes sense.
I have no control.
Remember, she's disqualified if you get that way.
No, no.
Oh, really?
That's okay. That was one of the reasons why I moved in.
Hey, Deb, Deb's old.
No, it's just fine. Mostly,
Yeah, parking lot.
I need to see.
Pretty sure we do too.
I love it.
Do you really? Yeah. Oh, I'm not a fan. No. It's the little things, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what they're proposing. This is for you, I guess. This is
a minute.
John Love's.
You get paid?
McGee, I need to see that after the meeting.
Did I move into the Carl Richter Center? I got a lot of mail.
Yes, guys.
Mr. President.
It's okay.
You ready?
Good. I like that magazine.
It is. It's way pushed back because they got mileage for extras and it goes to the town.
Oh, okay.
They really will open it.
How are you? Okay?
I don't care.
Just for okay for that.
See, his chair is down. They moved them out. And the high back chairs are usually back there. I need to only do the other ones.
Okay, gotcha.
It's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Also,
Here.
Kirkshank. Here. Heifel.
Here.
Shield.
Here.
Musgrave. Here. Rankin.
Here.
McKinney.
Here. First item is the consent agenda. All items listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Village Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately immediately after consent agenda approval in its normal sequence on the regular agenda.
I'd like to bring number 5 down to new business, please.
I'll support that.
It's done.
Said what number?
Number 5.
Number 5. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved. Support?
Motion and support. Roll call vote, please.
Heifel.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Kirkshank.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried. Public comment. Members of the public can address council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes. Council may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote. Prior to addressing council, we ask that members of the public state their name and address for the record. Anyone offering for public comment? Mr. Love.
John Love, 200 North Saginaw. I just learned that the parking lot that surrounds the mill is not owned by the village any longer. It's owned by the people that bought the village headquarters. And it was a separate land parcel. So it wasn't a parcel, it was part of the building, and it was owned by the village, both building and the property. So that had no relationship to why it had to be transferred. It was sold on August 2013 when they sold the headquarters. Then I looked up the records, and it was kind of confusing because the lot value was not made specifically. It was just the total price of both parcels. It should have been allocated separately. And if you look at that document that I gave you, it says in there, it breaks out the appraisal price that the Oakland County people put on the lot of $80,000. And that's just part of the, it's not the full market value. They do that 50% deal. Anyway, it should have been broken out separately. The sale price for the package was reported twice. That same amount of $400,000 was reported on the records for the headquarters sale and also for the lot sale. So that was confusing too. I owned the mill, and I was never contacted in this change of ownership of the village property. I had no option to purchase part of it, was ever made on the same basis, and I would have liked to have been involved in this change that affected my property. And I thought it was inappropriate to have done that. Okay, it's just me, but anybody that was in a similar situation, to have them treated like that is unsatisfactory. And that's why I brought this to your attention, because I just learned about it talking to my neighbors. And then I went down and verified that this is what I learned and what has happened in this operation. Here's a picture of the signs that are on this. This is municipal parking. And the manager said they have some kind of an agreement. Well, I don't know what the agreement is. I would have liked to have at least been aware of that. I talked to the neighboring business. He didn't know about it either. So that's not the way we should be transparent in conducting business. Appreciate you looking into this, and I've asked to find out what the record was of the minutes back in August 2013 when they sold this place. It was done on a land contract, and I would have been willing to up the ante a little bit and have a land contract to do something on it. And I wouldn't even wanted the whole parking lot, but at least have some relationship to the business. And at one time I ran a business out of there, and you had to bring semis in and back it up to unload them. So it just becomes more complex, and whatever happens to the building after I pass away.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Any further public comment? Mrs. Channer.
Jennifer Chanter, 504 Elm Street. I'm here in regards to Ganshaw Park, and I would like to know why there is no sign. It's taken over 8 months to have a sign put up there. The cold weather's coming. It's going to be way over a year that there has been no sign there.
Are you speaking of a sign that names the park?
Yes.
Okay.
I was told it was going to be replaced. Or I guess I assumed it was going to be replaced, and that I was asked to do a couple of things by the Park Commission, which I did do, which I believe was in March, might have been April.
So if you'll let me follow up on that, then I'll get back with Mrs. Chanter, as well as I'll send a message to council to let you know what the status of that is and the schedule.
Okay, yeah, it just seems 8 months
Sure.
is a long time.
Anyone else have anything to offer for public comment? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5 from the consent agenda. Oh, sorry. Before that, we have a presentation. Chief Story.
Thank you for allowing me the time, Council, and you folks too. I would like to take this opportunity to present my, this village's newest part-time officer, who's Stan. This is Officer Michael Semazar. He comes to us by way of the Auburn Hills and then the Ann Arbor Police Departments. He just recently retired from the Ann Arbor Police Department with 22 years. He spent an additional 8 prior to that in Auburn Hills. And even prior to that, he worked for the police department in Milan as a dispatcher. So he's had a well-rounded and diverse law enforcement experience. Small, medium to large towns. Michael's been highly trained and highly motivated throughout his career. He's got many, many letters in his files lauding his efforts from the citizens and from his individual departments. I was lucky to grab him off and persuade him that he needed to be here, and at which time he informed me that he was an ex-resident of Holly and still lives in the area. So with that being, I'd like to say thank you for Officer Semazar for you being here and present him to this council and this town and say thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Then he's going back to work. Just another guy talked into understanding and overworking.
Well, I had a few opportunities to work in other places, but I lived here for a long time. This is where I wanted to work. I used to tease some of the officers who work here now and said, when I retire, you're getting stuck with me, and here I am. This is where I wanted to work, so he allowed me to. Thanks. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks. Presentation, Genevieve Rainey, regarding Holly Farmers Market. We could pass that for the time being. We'll move to item 5 on the consent agenda. Consideration of the approval of resolution 2018-33 approving the clerk treasurer. Oh, I keep wanting to get number 5.
You like that number 5.
Second time.
Yeah. I'll make the
Public,
motion.
go ahead.
I'll make the motion to enter into a public hearing to address community development block grant funds.
Support. Motion and support. Roll call vote, please.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Kirkshank.
Yes.
Heifel.
Yes.
McKenney.
Yes. Motion carried. We're opening the public hearing at 7:11. Yes, ma'am. This is regarding community development block grant funds.
Yes. I'm Joan Wolf, 11021 Eagle Road, and I'm representing Neighbor for Neighbor. And Neighbor for Neighbor has been at the Mill Pond, located in Davisburg, for 35 years. We are a nonprofit food and clothing pantry, open Monday, Wednesday, and the last Saturday of the month. As of today, we have spent $20,000 to purchase food for the pantry, spent another $11,000 for financial aid which includes evictions and utility shutoffs. During the year, we usually service around 1,000 individuals and 354 families. Our clothing pantry comes from donations from our neighbors and friends. We receive money from churches, organizations, FEMA grants, and many wonderful people. This year, we will be able to give our seniors a $50 visa to help with their prescription drug cost. Also this year, we are purchasing boots for our seniors. Besides helping the seniors, we were able to purchase coats for children. During these next 2 months, we will be giving out Thanksgiving and Christmas bags. We wouldn't be able to meet any of these needs without the tremendous friends and volunteers of Neighbor for Neighbor. We love Holly from Brandon Township to Rose Township. And the reason I'm here is to get the word out that if you are low income and in need, whether it be food, financial, or clothing, Neighbor for Neighbor is there. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions of our guest? Hearing none. Well, thank you.
I do have one. Is
Oh.
there a number that people can contact?
Yes, 248
Mm-hmm.
634
Mm-hmm.
4417. And I brought brochures. I'll make sure you get some.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments on the public hearing regarding Community Development Block Grant Funds? Mr. Love.
I'm unfamiliar with what the plan is. I wonder if somebody could review what it is.
Anything further, Mr. Love? Any further comments for the Community Development Block Grant Funds? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:14.
Do we need a motion to go out of a public hearing?
Well, we'll go ahead.
I'll make that motion. That we adjourn the public hearing at 7:14 p.m.
Support.
Motion and support. Roll call vote, please.
Was that you, Chris?
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Kirkshank.
Yes.
Heupel.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried. We are out of the public hearing. If there's no objection, I'll go to number 5 on the consent agenda, which I've been dying to discuss, I guess.
Yeah, you have to do one first. You have to wait.
Consideration of the approval of Resolution 2018-33 approving the clerk treasurer to file the corrective action plan. Ms. Heupel?
I just thought this needed to be pulled out of consent agenda and clarified through new business because it says the report triggered a preliminary review of underfunded status, and the municipality was underfunded if it's less than 60%. It says the waiver of the application was denied. So I'd like a clarification as to why it was denied, and that an additional $75,000 contribution per year for 5 years, where will that money come from? So.
This is the Public Act 202 that the state instituted last December. It's still new. They're still deciding what they're going to deny or not. They pretty much denied most of the waivers that were put in because they wanted to show that we would reach 60% by 2025, which we will in this. The $75,000 is split $25,000 out of general fund, $25,000 out of water, and $25,000 out of sewer, because that's how our employees are split pretty much.
So it won't be coming out of employee contribution?
So there's a portion of money that each employee does pay. Right now, that was negotiated in the last 2 union contracts. Contracts are scheduled to expire June 30th of 2019, and that will be another negotiated item.
Thank you.
And that will stop after we reach the 60% at 2025.
Any further comments or questions?
So is there any action on this then?
We need to approve it.
we need to approve the clerk treasurer filing the corrective action plan.
So moved.
Support.
There's motion and support in favor of approving the clerk treasurer filing the corrective action plan. Any further discussion or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Cruikshank.
Yes.
Hypo.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes, motion carried. There being no old business, we'll move to new business. Item 1, consideration of the approval of property split for 313 and 315 South Broad Street.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This has to do with the piece of property that the current fire department located at 313 South Broad and the police department located at 315 South Broad share. On that piece of property, both stations function. The council previously had authorized the refurbishment and the move of the fire department from the Broad Street address to 414 North Saginaw, and then subsequently approved moving towards the sale of the property located at 313 South Broad. Since both properties or both buildings are located on one parcel of property, that being the IH01-34-310-012, it's required that the properties be split before that piece of property in which the current fire department resides can be sold. The Road Professional Services assisted us with preparing information for this property split. It is the responsibility of the village council to split or combine properties which are platted within the village. If they were unplatted properties, those properties would be under the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. But because this is a platted parcel, it is the responsibility of the council, and so that's why it is in front of you. If you look at the diagram on which would be your third page, you see a triangular piece of property, and that is the proposed lot or the proposed parcel that would remain as 313 South Broad. In the north west corner of that property, there is a little piece that is sectioned off there. That is where the water tower sits. And so I show that on there just so you had some relation to where the water tower was. Actually, in the split that's proposed, the water tower would remain. The village would obtain an easement when the title work is complete, so that we would always have access to the water tower as needed. So that piece of property that you see there shows a dotted line outlining the almost triangular piece. On the south side, that is where the drive goes in between the police and the fire department. And in the original split that the appraiser had put together, he did not have the property extended far enough along that southerly border. So what that line represents is just 2 feet kicked out from what O'Neill Appraisal had originally suggested that we use as the split. And then if you flip over to the last page, you'll see the property that would be left, which will be the police department lot, or parcel in which the police department currently resides, and that's what their property would look like. It will require, on the police department piece, that we obtain certain variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, but that's really a separate matter from tonight, and it does not involve the fire department parcel as proposed. So what I'm asking for is authorization to move forward with this split. We will then prepare property descriptions as well as the easement and forward it to Oakland County for final disposition.
This is a silly question, but I'm assuming that this hasn't been split into the last 10 years.
It has not.
Another question, Jerry. If we give the authority and that goes through splitting that property, and let's say somebody wants to buy the fire hall, all of a sudden they want to buy that land that's
water towers on, could we make some agreement that the water tower would stay with that property down the road?
Yeah, the Village of Holly will maintain ownership of the water tower as well as an easement to access it.
See, I know that, Chris, but the thing is you know how things go down the road. Well, the fire department gets sold and the guy needs more land, and all of a sudden that water tower property gets sold and the water tower's gone. Just to make sure that it stays.
No, correct. That is exactly what will occur.
The village is planning on retaining ownership of that third section, that third triangular section that we've got outlined here.
Well, the plan is to maintain possession of the water tower as well as an easement to access the water tower. There's really no need for us to possess the land,
right?
As long as we have the property and a way to it.
So there was no mention of, so the way the parcels are split now, the parking lot on the back is actually a separate parcel ID number. We're talking about 012. The parking lot behind the police and fire station is 013. So basically the fire and police property is split down the middle, north and south, and we're talking about splitting it east and west, but I don't see any mention of 013 in the notes.
Well, no, not in the notes, but if you follow the diagram, I mean, the diagram is going to be the outline of the property lines.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the 013 is somewhere in somebody's description.
It will be, certainly.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. So we're just planning on basically taking it from a north-south split to an east-west split.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make a motion the council approve the split of the current parcel ID number IH0134310012 into two separate parcels contingent upon the ZBA approval of the required variance for 315 South Broad Street so as not to create a non-conforming parcel.
Support.
Support.
Motion and support to follow the recommendation of the staff. Any further comments or questions?
Mr. President, I mean, just for clarification, I mean, we all know what we're doing, but just so we never have to come back again, could you include 013, 012 and 013?
I'll include 012 and 013 into two separate parcels.
Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, a roll call vote, please.
Heupel.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Cruikshank.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried. Item 2 under new business, consideration of the approval of ordinance 454 amending sections 157080 and 157096 of the Code of Ordinances.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. For this presentation, Assistant Manager DDA Director Hughes will handle the presentation, and I believe that Councilman Cruikshank sat in the Planning Commission in which this was introduced.
Yeah. So for the planned unit development district, this went through, really? So the Planning Commission voted to move this text amendment to the Council for approval. This did go, had a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission to receive public comment. Some specific sections were changed. You'll notice you have the recommended version that's in front of you. The only changes that of note were to remove the redundancy of both commissions because it was listed as planning and or zoning, and it removed the zoning. So that's about the only change that was made. And this was done through Caitlin Haben of Road Professional Services. So this is just moved to you for approval from the Planning Commission.
This does give a little bit more leeway to the Planning Commission too, if I remember correctly, where we can, you know, with the PD there was very strict ways you could implement it, or have a building that would accommodate a business or something like that, where we added there the ability. I was trying to look for the exact language so I could read it, but I'm having a hard time finding it because it's only like 4 words. One of them was the site shall contain significant natural or historic resources that would be preserved through the development under the PUD standards as determined by the Planning Commission as required, or the site is disposed of a complementary mixture of housing types with a unique high-quality design. So basically it allows the Planning Commission a little more leeway to allow something that would be specific in a PUD while having them conform to the standards. So if they meet 9 out of 10 standards, but that 10th one is a struggle, and we wanted the business to come in, or we could have that leeway to allow it.
Just for clarification, what's PUD?
Planned unit development. So this would be something, say, an apartment complex, a condominium area, something that is planned out for higher density.
Sometimes mixed uses too.
Yeah,
Correct.
or if it's not a zoned residential / commercial, they can have a business in their house, you know, and they wouldn't be in a specific district. They may just be on a random street in town and they wanted to do that. So.
Any further comments or questions?
Make the motion that we update zoning ordinance 454 with the PUD amendments of 157.8080 and 157.096.
Support.
Motion and support. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Kirkshank.
Yes.
Heupel.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried. Item 3 under new business, consideration of the approval of Resolution 2018-36, submitting to the village electors for approval the process of filling vacancies in the office of village president.
So this is an item that the Charter and Ordinance Committee had met on. I don't know if the Charter and Ordinance Committee wants to do the presentation or if you'd like us to give a summary.
We can, sure. Charter and ordinance consists of myself, Ms. Heupel, and Mr. Rankin. In the course of going through some other charter and ordinance issues or discussions that we were having, we did find a sentence in the charter that says that the office of president or pro tem, that they need to be filled with the current council members. And so all this is doing is taking it where it was on the charter and putting it specifically where vacancies are in the section of the ordinance. So in 3.5 is where in the village charters where we'll say now we're just moving a sentence from over here to over here.
I make a motion we approve Resolution 2018-036, submitting to the village electors for approval the process for filling vacancies in the office of village president.
Support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Musgrave.
No.
Rankin.
No.
Alsop.
No.
Kirkshank.
Yes.
Heupel.
Yes.
Shield.
No.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion failed, right?
Motion failed.
Good.
Next item of business on the agenda is new business 4, consideration of the approval of Resolution 2018-037, submitting to the village electors approval the process of determining council compensation.
And again, I think this is another Charter and Ordinance Committee if you'd like to present.
Yeah, so after quite a few back and forth between Charter and Ordinance, Mr. Gildner, the Attorney General's office, back to us, I don't know how many times we went to this tennis match. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we settled on just a flat rate instead of something that, is kind of math-based and increasing where you wouldn't really know the numbers specifically. So for background information, right now, current council gets $900 a year. What would go to the ballot, again, for the voters to decide, would be each council member shall receive a compensation for his or her service for the sum of $2,000 beginning at the 2019-2020 fiscal year, with compensation increased by 2% or match the rate of inflation, whichever is less, for each subsequent year. The village president shall receive a compensation for his or her service in the sum of $2,500, asterisk $500 increase, beginning with the same 1920 fiscal year, with compensation increase same 2% rate of inflation, whichever is less in each year. Such salaries shall be payable annually as determined by the council and shall constitute only salary or compensation that may be paid for services performed by the president and council member for discharge of any official duty on the behalf of the village during their term of office. Upon prior authorization of the council, reasonable expenses may be allowed and actually incurred on behalf of the village. So that last whole paragraph didn't really apply to this specifically, but so we're changing it from $900 to $2,000 for a regular council member, $2,500 for the president, with a increase of 2% or inflation, whichever is the lesser number.
Dave, what year does that start in for the new people?
It's all across the board, and it says 2019, 2020 fiscal year.
To be voted on at the 2019 general election.
Correct. The next election, yep.
So it's up to a vote of the people.
Correct, yes. This would not change anything until the voters decide yea or nay on it. So obviously if they vote nay, it stays still at the $900 and nothing changes at all.
And that has been in effect for how many years?
At least 1987, I believe.
And that 900 is before taxes have been taken out.
Correct. Yep. If anybody likes to see a stub,
we got them today.
Right here.
Yeah, and if you take, and I believe it was 1984 actually, and if you take $900, you throw it in the inflation calculator, $900 in 1984 is worth about $2,400 today. So we're still starting out at a little less than what we had in 1984, but at least it has a mechanism for a general increase over time, so that we're not stuck in the same situation 20 years from now where there hasn't been an increase in the council pay for 20 years or 30 years.
Was there research about comparable communities and what they?
There was. And they were kind of all over the board. Like, and I don't remember the specific numbers, but there were places like Grand Blanc that people get 6,000, and Wixom where they get 2,200, and Birmingham where they make 19,000 or whatever it is. But
I think Linden was the lowest one, and that was like $50. It was like,
I think it was $50 a meeting, and they had 8 meetings or 12 meetings a year.
Oh, I thought total they were like under $1,000 for sure.
Well, it is,
yeah.
Because they had 12 meetings and $50 a piece is $600.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely.
But it was even, there were some communities that were even less, but I don't know that there weren't any larger communities that were paying less.
Right.
But we were certainly amongst the lowest. The only issue that I see with the wording on it, and I hate to bring up issues with the wording on it, is that
he loves doing this.
Yeah, and I hate to bring this up if it's not going to the voters until 2020.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
How can it start in 2019?
Yeah. So I would say we could approve it with that amendment that we're moving the years.
That we maybe make it effective,
It'd be the
12 months after the election, or the beginning the fiscal year after whatever election, if it passes.
Yeah.
Can we maybe make that friendly amendment to the wording, so that
correct,
so that we don't have it starting before the vote takes place?
Yeah, because in the bold print is actually what's going to be on the ballot in 2020 is my assumption, is that general election, because I don't think there's anything slated for 19 if I'm not mistaken. But
so maybe we could change that to 2021, 2022 budget. It would start the year after the election, assuming it passes.
It said the November 2019 general election, but
yeah,
there isn't one.
That was the only announcement I got. The 2019 general election was in this memo, so there isn't one.
Correct. Yeah.
So the pay structure will begin in 2019 or 2020?
It'd be the 2020 annual budget, because after the...
Which would start in October of 19,
correct.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Which would still be before the vote.
Well,
the
vote
would just, if we could just say the year after the election, I think we could make that real easy.
Yeah.
Is there if it's up to a vote of the people, Michael, Mr. Gildner?
Yes.
And it's for the fiscal year 2000, was it, it's July, it's June, July 1 now.
July 1st to June 30th, correct.
Probably should wait then. And you understand what the language change has to be?
I do.
Okay.
I think I do. 2020. So presently, right now, it says in 2 places, 2019/2020. And as I understand it, it would be the 2020 fiscal year.
No, I think it's.
I think it would be 2021.
It'd be the 2021 fiscal year, which started July 1st, 2021, after the election
Yes.
and the new budget.
It'd be the
With the
21,
fiscal year
22,
starting in the
20.
middle of the year, which fiscal year is it?
It's the July 1st, 2020 to June 30, 2021, isn't it?
Okay.
Because we're getting
Well, we're
paid off
paid
of 20
now,
now.
yeah.
So then, once the new pay, you've already been paid in the November 2020 election. We've already gotten paid for that. So that would take us through to November 2021, which would be in the 2021/22 budget.
It'll be 21, 22.
21,
so.
22,
Yeah.
because it has to be after the election.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
November.
So it'd have to be the fiscal year
So it'd be
after the election, and the election's in 2020.
Right. So it'll be
So
2021.
it would have to be the following fiscal year, which would be 2021, starting July 1st.
Yes.
Okay, confused me. 2021
No.
through 2022.
2022. So we're going to
Yes.
change 2019-2020 to 2021/2022.
Thank you.
Lots
So
of
if-
20s
In
in there.
both places.
2020, 2020.
Any further comments or questions?
Did I make that motion?
Sure,
I think it
Chris.
should be an
Make that motion.
outgoing.
I'll make the motion that we approve the consideration of submitting to the village electors for approval the process of determining council compensation as discussed.
As an outgoing member, I support that.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? I'll say that there was a lot of work on the language. There's a lot of back and forth with the Attorney General's office, and I think the audience tonight has a flavor for why that is. And if you want to be on the council in 21, 22, you can pick up your ballot or your petition in 2 years, I guess. Any further discussion? Any further comments? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Alsop.
Yes.
Kirkshank.
Yes.
Heupel.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes, motion carried. Item 5 under new business, consideration of the approval of ordinance 455, amending section 151.99 of the Code of Ordinances.
This has to do with rental registrations. This was another Charter and Ordinance Committee consideration. Would you like to present, or would you like me to?
If you want to go ahead and take this one, that's
Sure.
fine. I was looking
Okay.
for funding.
So currently under section 151.99 of the zoning ordinance, which deals with rentals and rental inspections and registration, there was nothing that addressed what would happen if a person intentionally failed to register a rental property for inspection. And we view these rental inspections as a quality of life issue as well as a life safety issue. So we have a number of rental properties within the village. We think it's important, again, from a quality of life issue, that people who rent these apartments or homes, that they have a safe environment to live in, and hence the safety issue, as well as the just the environment that a person lives in. We look for things that create fire hazards or that would prevent egress in the case of a fire or other emergency, as well as just keeping things up to code. So there was no provision in the ordinance for that. After consideration, the Charter and Ordinance Committee did decide to recommend placing a penalty section into the ordinance, and it says a person or a violation of any provision of this chapter shall be a municipal infraction, and any person, firm, corporation, or legal entity responsible for the violation shall be subject to fines set by resolution of the council. And so that's exactly what would happen if a person intentionally or just did not make any attempt to register their property. They would be subject to a fine that would be set by council at a subsequent meeting.
I'll make the motion that we approve this ordinance 455 to amend the rental registration section 151.99.
Support.
Motion support. Any further questions or any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Kirkshank.
Yes.
Heupel.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried. last item under new business, number 6, special event, Ladies' Night Out.
So this item is in front of you because it is less than the 60 days prior authorized time for persons or organizations to submit a special event permit. Otherwise, this would be in the consent. This is our biannual Ladies' Night Out that has been conducted, one of the largest events each time that it is held in the village, and really nothing has changed as far as requirements of staff or police for this event. So on behalf of the Downtown Development Authority, we are asking for authorization of this special event for Ladies' Night Out, which will occur on Friday, November the 9th, 2018 from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
I'll make the motion to approve the special event for Ladies' Night Out with one request, that we have empty garbage cans. The last time, I think might have been 2 times ago, garbage cans got a little bit full. So that would be my request.
I'll support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Heupel.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Cruikshank.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public can address council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes. Council may extend this time up to an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote. Prior to addressing council, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. Any offerings in public comment? Yes, ma'am.
I'm truly sorry that I gave you the wrong phone number.
That's okay.
I wasn't shook or anything. It's 248
Mm-hmm.
634 0900. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Mr. Love.
John Love again. I just, we have a couple of properties that are for sale. The car wash and the fire hall. I haven't seen a sign in front of the fire hall, and I just wondered what, that's the best way to advertise it so that people know what's going on. And I'd just like to know how much we received in offers, and for the car wash, what the status is of these properties. Because if people know they're for sale and what the prices are, then they would it encourage more interest, and the more interest you have of what the prices are and what's involved, the better offers you get and the better prices you get.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Any further public comment? Yes, Mr. Kinnaman.
Richard Kinnaman, 433 North Saginaw Street. Just want to offer a thank you to some council members whose terms are expiring. Some are up for re-election, I understand as well. But on behalf of our community, I think we owe a thank you to those who have given their time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kinnaman. Any further public comment? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on to reports. Mr. Walker.
So briefly in my written report, I mentioned the fact that Chief McGee and I had been meeting with various alarm and camera installation consultants. Some of the investigation that we have been doing has been for our buildings, namely the fire department that's under renovation, as well as the village office. And so we have not had major incidents. However, I think it's a good idea that we look at some of these security measures, and so we are doing that. We'll keep you abreast with more information as we gain them. One of the other projects that the chief and I are looking into is that of tying all the businesses in the downtown district together with a smoke alarm or some type of fire alarm notification system. So we view the buildings downtown as a very valuable resource to the village, and in a lot of ways is our identity, although Holly has a lot of identities, but the downtown's very important. So we again will bring more information to you on that. we think that it will be cutting edge to have the entire downtown tied together with a system. We will start rolling this information out to the business owners as we start evaluating a little closer downtown on exactly what a system would look like. And so we're doing that. The other thing that I have for you is I think you have on your places in front of you a photocopy of a proposed logo for the Village of Holly, as well as the tagline being Timeless Appeal, Hometown Feel. As you remember, we actually presented a few meetings ago about some work that a consultant had been doing for the DDA and coming up with proposed taglines as well as the village logo. So this is the concept that Director Hughes has presented to the DDA board already. They asked that it come to the council. We presented it in this form during the manager's report rather than an agenda item because we're not looking for authorization to actually start changing things over. Really, we're at the point now to where we need to know. It was presented to council previously. The DDA, consensus is that they favor this logo. We just want to make sure before we invest any more time and certainly get to the point where we're proposing money that this is something that the council is satisfied with.
I say yes.
I like it.
Yeah, I really like it.
Very nice.
I'm on board.
It looks nice. I kind of like some of the other catchphrases Katie had, and I don't remember what some of them were, but this one is fine.
Okay.
What don't you like? I mean, what?
I was just saying, I remember she rattled off a list of them before, and there was probably 6 or 8 of them, and I think a couple of them really stood out to me at least, but, you know, there's nothing negative about this one. I just think I like some of the other taglines. That's all.
And I think you're probably right. I mean, it's all personal preference on what you like the best. What staff tried to do, along with a consultant, was pull together from that community survey what most people valued. And really, it was a very responsive survey. It was very good. But really, what we ended up with was there was a strong liking or consensus of timeless appeal of Holly. So very much we're like we were in the past, but very appealing today. And then the hometown feel. That was really strong in the community survey, that people that live in Holly are proud to live in Holly, and they like that hometown feel. So with that being said, we will send this back to the DDA. You will be seeing this again also when an implementation schedule is being derived, because there will be a cost to that of changeover. We will bring it back to council to advise you of what we estimate the cost will be, because we have water towers that need to be painted anyways, but they will be included in it. We have signs, we have stationery, we have just a sundry of different items, but we'll do our best to pull together an estimation. So nothing will be changing at this time. Me personally, I love our old logo. I like this one. I love our old one, kind of traditional, but we'll be moving in this direction, so I'm excited about this. That we have consensus to move forward, and we will come back to you as we work with the DDA board a little more and work out schedules and cost and everything that's associated from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Katie and company.
Mr. Gilder.
I don't have anything new to add. Some of my handiwork was before you tonight in 3 of the agenda items. There were no questions asked, so glad to see that those things at least received, some went through, some did not. But in the event, for those of you who are moving on, it was a pleasure working with you. Suzanne has the biggest smile every time someone talks about it, so I know that you're probably all excited about it. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Gildner.
I have a question for the attorney. I'm going to end with my last question to you, which was my first question to you. Any word on Silverman?
No, ma'am. And I would love to make that smile bigger.
Yeah. Okay.
Ms. Bigger.
After 2 years of paperwork, we finally received our brand new smart bus.
Yay!
It's a 2018. It had 70 miles on it when we picked it up. It should alleviate all of the breakdowns and having to survive on just one van for days and weeks at a time, which should provide better service to our residents.
Awesome. Thank you for your
Good news.
diligence.
Thank you. Boards and commissions, we'll start with Mr. Cruikshank.
Planning met last week, and we went over some of the PUD language again to bring it up here, and then the fire department as well. So they brought together their finalized plans of the exterior changes that were going on. It's going to look great.
Thank you. Ms. Heupel.
Community Center met just before council meeting today. We had total visitors for the month of September, 2,349. Total profit for September, $618. There are upcoming events. Rock of Salvation, a free live concert, will be coming November 17th. One major thing that I want to make sure that I point out is the comedy show that was scheduled for this week, Saturday, conflicts with the Halloween, and we needed to increase promotions. Therefore, it will be postponed to a later date. It has not been determined yet. If anyone has purchased tickets, those will be refunded. You can contact Tony Brinker, the director of the community center, or the village office. Okay. There's also a Tai Chi classes that will be starting Thursday, November 1st. It'll be $49 a month. It's every Thursday at 11 o'clock. Aladdin Jr. By the Holly Youth Theater will be November 8th to the 11th. And then the Veterans Resource Center has upcoming events starting with November 10th. There's an art show in the cafeteria. November 19th, and every third Monday of every month there'll be a vet-to-vet get-together. February 15th, there's be another wrestling event, and on the February 28th, there'll be a Vietnam vet pinning for spouses whose husbands have died. So that's what we talked about. Community center, lots of upcoming events.
I'm sorry, what was the Vietnam vet pinning date?
February 28th.
February 28th?
Yes. There'll be more on that as the date approaches.
Anything further?
Nothing.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. Ms. Musgrave.
Personnel and finance have not met, so I have nothing.
Mr. Alsop.
The zoning board has not met.
Mr. Rankin.
Parks hasn't met since our last council meeting, but everybody come out Saturday 3 to 6 for Halloween. Trick-or-treating at the downtown merchants, and then costume contest, free cider and donuts, and a bonfire at Crapo Park afterwards.
Historic met and continued discussions about historic boundaries. I do believe there was something else, right, Ms. Nicole?
We talked about the redevelopment ready proposal, and they made a request for us to submit a letter of recommendation for that. And then we talked about the event that was held last Monday? No, Monday the 5th. The sacred sanctuary places.
Yeah, so that's the Heritage Conference that's held on November the 5th. We're right at the deadline time. We had announced it previously. If anybody on council or boards and commission wishes to attend, that is village-sponsored training, but it is emphasis on the preservation of sanctuaries, cemeteries, and the importance of those type of institutions or places to a community.
And Haya hasn't met since, and that's it.
Thank you. Council comments, Mr. Shield.
I have none.
Mr. Rankin.
Did I mention that there's free cider and donuts at Crapo Park on Saturday?
How many donuts you gonna have?
We have 700 donuts and 40 or 50 gallons of cider. So.
I had 50 and 1,200, and it went by 7 o'clock.
Yeah, well.
I won't be here to enjoy it. I'll be out of town.
Well, everybody
Free.
come and get some donuts. Well, come and get some donuts while they last.
Anything further, Mr. Rankin?
That's it.
Mr. Alsop?
Well, I want to make an announcement. I'll miss you, Suzanne and Dave and Chris. If you don't win the election, I'll miss you guys. We all work together good. We fought, but you're awesome people.
Thanks, Bob. Likewise.
That's it.
Ms. Musgrave?
I too would like to say thank you for those that are departing from council. It was an enjoyable and exciting time at times, but I wish you guys the best, and thanks for being part of the council. And good luck to those that are running in future spots.
Thanks.
Ms. Heupel, any comments?
So this is my last council meeting, and if I don't say something about my time on council, I'll probably regret it later. Against the advice of my father, George LaMarche, who's here tonight and who was a former village president, I ran on council. 6 years later, I want to tell you that I've learned a lot. I should have listened to my father. There's a lot more time and work involved than anybody knows until they start doing it. This job is probably not for a people pleaser like me. Not every day is sunshine and rainbows. Some days it's a matter of disregarding utter falsehoods because no amount of listening, educating, or justifying will make any difference at all. However, this I know for sure. There's not one person up here who has not made their decisions based on what they feel is best for Holly. For those who have tried to shame us for not thinking or voting the way they would have if they were up here, I wholeheartedly encourage you to take a turn sitting on this side of the table. To my fellow council members, thank you for your friendship, energy, dedication, and countless hours of volunteering to make our village better every day. Dave, I love sitting next to you and listening to you and talking about everything with you. We don't agree on a lot of stuff, yet you have become one of my most favorite people ever.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan, you should win the Champion Volunteer of the Year every year. Chris, Mr. Mello, show me the numbers, logical, sweet, and smart. Bob, I like the way you speak your mind and you're not afraid to ask any question to clarify any topic. Tom, in the short time that you've been our president, as well as the very long time that I've known you, you've always given me a confidence and a reassurance that everything will be okay. Debbie, I kept you for last because there's no words. To all of you, I hope our unique camaraderie continues even though I will no longer be sitting in this chair anymore. To Jerry, Debbie, Katie, the backbone crew in the corner, and in the village office. You are invaluable to me and to us. Thank you for your support, your expertise, guidance, especially Jerry, your calm demeanor in any challenge. I know I would not have made it through these 6 years without you. To everybody here in this room and in the community, Angie, Richard, Nicole, Terry, Lori, Mom and Dad, Marlo, thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve. Your ideas, input, voicemails, emails, texts, posts were mostly helpful and guided me in every decision I made. You are the reason why Holly is the best place to call home. I'm proud to live here. I'm proud to be from here. I'm proud to have had this honor. It's been a pleasure and a privilege, and I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Mr. Cruikshank.
How do I follow something like that?
That's a tough
That's a tough act.
All right, now for my flavor of an exit letter. 4 years ago, I had no idea what to expect when I was elected to council. All I knew was something needed to change. 4 years later, I can say with absolute certainty, I still don't know what to expect on council. Although that is a tongue-in-cheek statement, a lot of it holds true. What that tells me is the ride is often unpredictable. All I really wanted is a transparent and engaged local government. I feel strongly that I not only kept that promise to myself, but to you, the residents, as well. I often led the charges, sometimes with help and sometimes alone, to some pretty important changes that our town has undergone. Things like, I've hosted multiple meet and greets around town to engage with the residents, created social media accounts strictly for engagements and transparency. When I heard about the dash cams in the PD, I helped push for those because it only protects them, but also the residents. I've attended regular training sessions to keep up with changes and network with other local officials. I've increased coverage in the local paper by simply building the relationships with them. Facebook live streaming of all the meetings. And that leads into permanent live streaming of all the meetings, which also had a ripple effect into the township. Updated the council rules and procedures to add additional public comment. Got out our water reports right after the Flint water crisis to ease fears of those who may have been wondering. I headed a blight task force and increased the hours of code enforcement. Posted many village facts on these social media pages in order to increase education and local government to our residents. We started Hope Not Handcuffs, where addicts can now get help and don't have to worry about getting arrested. Waterworks Committee, it took 35 plus years, but we got it done. The Gov Delivery Communication System. Updating the way we read our water meters monthly will save us hundreds of hours over the year from our DPW staff. Our winter parking ordinance, which now allows us to park on the streets when it's 50 and no snow on the ground, along with many other revisions and modernizing as you've seen tonight. It only took me 4 years, but it seems like an impressive feat. Sadly, there are still things that I did not get accomplished. I wish that I could always do more. I tried to get common sense medical marijuana enacted in this town, but I was stymied by the old out-of-date facts and accusations that I want to turn the town dirty. After all the work I've done in proving, that statement is absolutely laughable. The additional funding would help bring sorely needed income to us, as well as help the local economy grow substantially as the only one in the region to opt in. I also attempted to do the moral thing by making sure someone from council was appointed from the president's spot because I felt it was 100% wrong that an unelected person should be sitting in the highest spot. This has absolutely nothing to do with Tom McKinney. He is a highly respected individual, and I enjoy his company.
I didn't hear that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you, David.
Multiple council people have approached me in the weeks prior and asked if I was going to take it. My response has always been that if someone makes the motion, I would accept it. Well, even that night, I made the same argument that someone from council should be in that seat, and all I heard was, Tom is a great guy. And I argued about the next time when it's not a good guy. Well, we found in the charter that it was supposed to be a council member, and I was the only person that didn't violate the charter. I've done quite a bit of reflection over the past few months, and as my term comes to a close, I am brought extreme happiness to know that I have improved life around the village for some, all with my morals and integrity intact. I have made so many new relationships on my time with council. I can't even begin to describe how humbling that has been. I'm forever grateful. To all those who had voted for me, and even those who didn't, I thank you for the opportunity to represent you over these past 4 years. I have absolutely zero regrets. I'm not gone for good, I'm only taking a break. And I hope once I decide to return that you'll give me that opportunity to represent you once again. With much love, thank you all.
Suzanne and David, I want to thank you for helping me when I came on. David, I've been on boards and commissions for several decades, and you're as strong as any member I served with. You're a strong member of a board and commission.
That's humbling. I appreciate that. Genuinely, thank you.
Suzanne, you're as sweet as Dave is strong. And you're a good council.
Second that motion.
And you're a good council person, too. So thank you very much for helping friends and neighbors. I'd like one of you to make the motion to adjourn, and the other one to support it.
I'll make
Or we
that
could stay.
motion.
Paper, rock, scissors?
I'll make that motion to adjourn at.
No, I make the motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I support.
There's a motion and
All
support.
right.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
8:06.
Look, honey, we got paid.
I got paid. I'm sorry.